Hey guys, Bob Dinar here with Bobby D Sports, doing our off-season review on the Buffalo Bills. Okay, this is your first time here. The way we're going to do this, we're going to look at some stats from the 2023 season, see where they struggled, see where they excelled. Then we're going to go into the free agency, who left, who came in. We're going to take a peek at the draft, and then we're going to give it a letter grade, A through F, on how we feel this offseason went. Okay? I also want you guys to grade it too. So leave a comment below how you think they did. And also, take a look here. Any team without a red X is a team I still have to review. So please comment what team you'd love to see me do next. Leave it below. The most liked comment is the team I'm doing next. So, with that in mind, please, light it up. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know who you want me to do next. Hit the subscribe button, smash that like button, and let's jump right into this, all right? All right, let's go into an overview real quick. So the Buffalo Bills had an 11-6 record, right? The season ended in the divisional round to the Kansas City Chiefs. They lost by 3, third straight exit in the divisional round, guys. That is a bummer. That's a good team. To make it this far 3 years in a row. Also, I know 4 years ago they went to the AFC Championship. This is a good team, and they've held it together for a long time. So, I know they tore it apart already, but let's look at that when we get into the free agency part of it. Let's look at the stats for the 2023 season. Starting with the offense, all right? So, we take a peek here, and we're going to look at the total yards first and total points, right up here at the top. Fourth in total yards at 6,366 and sixth with 451 total points. That is a high-powered offense. Oof, look at that. And if we drop this down, let's look at the passing first, right here. Fourth most passing yards in the league. Just wonderful. This offense was humming. Look at that. Seventh most passing touchdowns, right? Seventh most. So 18th picks. Now that is a problem. That's our first red flag with this offense. So the way I do these rankings is, if it's a stat like touchdowns, the higher the better. So the highest is number 1. Interceptions, the lower the better. The best is the lowest amount of interceptions. So they have the 27th most interceptions in the league last year throughout the regular season. Fifth worst. That's bad. So we're not protecting the football at all. And that's really the only blemish on this passing side. So you have 8th highest completion percentage. 13th in QBR, probably because you have too many picks. So that's really what's dragging that down. But that would be in the top 10 otherwise, easy. And now this is a fun stat. They gave up the least amount of sacks. Okay? Now it's a little, it doesn't necessarily mean you have a great offensive line. I mean, that means you have a good offensive line, especially in pass protection. But I think this might be a little shrewd because instead of taking the sack, he might have been throwing it away a little bit or running. Josh Allen is definitely known for running the ball. So with running the ball, we're going to hop over to the rushing side of things right here. So you look at the 7th most rushing yards, 2,212. That's a good day. They had a great year out of Cook. 5th most rushing touchdowns. This is the other outlier, though. Look at that. 25th in the league fumbles. That's 9 fumbles. That is a shit ton of fumbles, guys. So, I mean, you just look right here at this. This is the big problem with this offense. They are moving the ball. They are scoring points. They are humming on every cylinder, but they turn the dang ball over. And I guarantee that's why they have 6 losses. This offense is a top 5 offense. Everything about it. I mean, you can be like, oh, some of these stats aren't top 5, like, 8th in completion percentage and yards per carry, but realistically, when most of your things are hovering around 5, you're in the top 5 statistically, usually. It's not always the case, but we can just say it off the top of our head right here. Now, the other big problem with this offense was they didn't break big runs. But with how much yardage they got, I guarantee they had some massive passing plays down the field. So not the best thing. You don't want to see below average in big runs because big runs really, that means the teams, you got to, like, this is a passing offense. They have to take advantage of everybody playing back on them. They're playing deep. They're going to play that run or that pass. I'm sorry. That pass, you got to run the ball and you got to be able to break some of those. Now, since they're playing back, they're probably able to not give up big runs because they're not over pursuing at the line of scrimmage. But, that's something right there that I'd like to see them hopefully address. Also, I want to go over this right here. There's a reason why I made that big. First place for third down rate. Third down percentage, 49.8%. 50% of the time, they're getting a first down on third down. That is an absolute crazy stat. Wow. This offense was something. I'm sure Bills fans loved watching these guys play. I know they weren't doing the best at the beginning of the year, but, the end of the year, these guys had to be so much fun to watch. That is fantastic. First place for a reason right there. 50%. That's crazy. Oh, let's jump right over to defense now. All right. So total yards here and total points are awesome. They gave up the 9th fewest total yards, 5,222. The 4th least amount of points. They're 4th best in the league. Look at 311. They didn't give up a lot of points on defense. Passing yards, it really looks like the passing side of this defense was where it shined. They didn't give up anything crazy. 7th least amount of yards. They did have a high completion percentage against them, 20th in the league, which means they probably gave up a lot underneath. But if you look at this, they gave up the 2nd least amount of touchdowns. 18 passing touchdowns through the course of a year is amazing. And then the 5th most interceptions. So this passing defense was doing wonderful. They kept QBR low. The reason that kind of probably dipped out of the top 5 is because they were giving up underneath stuff. But then when you look at the sacks, like, they were getting pressure on these guys. That's a lot of sacks. 4th in the league. 4th most sacks. That is a great passing defense. Look at that. Let's run over to the rushing side, and it's not as pretty. This is very below average rushing, but I will say you can look at this and be sad about it and say they need to work on their rushing defense, but this defense is built to stop the pass. And why are they built to stop the pass? Is because their offense was so efficient at scoring. So their game plan is, we're going to score. We're going to score early and just take this run right out of the game. Okay? And I'm sure they did that most of their games. I know they're struggling earlier in the year, which would, if this team allows teams to run, they're going to get ran all over. They can't stop it. But if they take the lead and force teams to pass, they're going to get turnovers and they're going to sack you. And that is definitely the game plan for the defense. And let's dip into these a little bit more. So a really high, yards per carry, 27th in the league there. That's really bad. But they didn't give up too many touchdowns compared to the rest of these stats. They really didn't give up a crazy amount. 11th, that's almost a top 10 in that category. But they gave up massive amount of yards. And that right there, they gave up 13 20-plus yard runs. So that's not, and they weren't stripping the ball. So when they were running the ball, they weren't getting the ball. And there's definitely work to be done on this side of the ball for that defensive line. I'm sure this is also going to be more linebackers in the pursuit. But overall, I would say that this team is definitely built around Josh Allen, pushing that ball down the field, scoring fast, playing hard early, getting a lead, and letting this secondary and pass rush really just get down there. Their third down rate, 38.6, 18th in the league. That's middle of the pack. Nothing crazy there. What that really tells me is that if you were in a short yardage situation where you can run or throw it really shallow, you're probably going to get the third down. But if you were third and long, this team was just annihilating you third and long. That's really all that really shows me. So yeah, just looking at the stats, this was a good team. There's a reason why they went to the divisional round in the playoffs. Okay, there's a reason why they took the at that time the future Super Bowl champions down to the wire. That was a 3-point game. They only lost by 3. So this is a very good defense, and this is an even better offense. Now let's go ahead and look at how they handled the free agency. So I know they lost a lot. Let's dip over to that. And to start, I want to go over one of the biggest trades this offseason, which is the Stefon Diggs trade. And I'm not going to spend a crazy amount of time on this. It is a huge hit for the Buffalo Bills team because he has been one of the best, arguably the best receiver in the last 5 years. And plus that, he's been just dominant since he's been in the league with Minnesota. Speaking of Minnesota, though, one of the big things I want to talk about with this trade, when you look at this, is that it's a second-round pick via Minnesota. So what that means is that this pick originally belongs to Minnesota. The trade was with Houston, who had, in my opinion, one of the best off seasons in the league. I haven't reviewed him yet, but I'm very excited for that one. So why is that such a big difference between Minnesota and Houston? Well, Minnesota just got rid of Kirk Cousins. They got Sam Darnold and a rookie QB. Okay? That generally means they're going to take a step back. And this was already not the best team, about a 7-win team. So let's say they get 6 wins, right? That puts you between pick 8 and 13 most years, somewhere in that range, which in the second round is going to put you somewhere around pick, we'll say 40 to 45-ish. Let's do 42. Pick 42, right? Just throwing off the top of my head. Let's say the Houston Texans, they have a great season. They go to the AFC Championship and lose. Something like that, They're pick 29, right? What's the difference between pick 42 and pick 62? That 20 players. That's a lot of talent. And that's why this pick here is actually pretty good value for a 30-year-old wide receiver with a high salary cap. So this isn't the worst trade, really the worst get back for losing someone at the caliber that I also kind of feel that the Buffalo Bills organization was kind of ready to move on from. But, only time will tell if this trade really works out. It depends on who they get and what he does in Texas. But I just wanted to go over this first and really point out that this is a Minnesota pick. So if you're looking at, how can we get better next year? Seeing how Minnesota does is something to keep an eye on, because that might be a potential second round pick, which is always a good pick in my opinion. So let's switch right over now and go to the free agency. And I'm going to start. I will have this website blog into the comments, in the description below for the link. So if you want to read this and see what they did, please, it'll be right there in the description. Click it. I usually try to get bloggers for the teams, so this helps somebody that's just a passionate fan, so to speak. It helps them out. So yeah, check it below. Click it. It helps them out too. So let's look right now into what free agents signed elsewhere. So who they lost, essentially. We're gonna start right here at the top here with Gabe Davis signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So okay, they just lost Stefon Diggs, their number 1 receiver. Now they're losing Gabe Davis, their number 2 receiver. That's a big hit. That is a really big hit. And you could be like, oh, well, it's fine because they have blah, blah, blah. I'll actually show you here real quick what I mean by this big hit. We'll look at the stats real quick. I'm not going to go too hard into this stuff. There's a lot going on. But if you can see my cursor right here on Stefon Diggs. So 8 touchdowns. And right below him, Gabe Davis, 7 touchdowns. You had 29 passing touchdowns on the year. Half of them were these two guys. Okay? Also, you can just look at the yards right here. Between both of them, we're just under 2,000. and that's basically half your passing yards. And I'm sure if we go ahead and look at targets, I usually look at targets for wide receiver more than receptions, even though there is a really crazy stat that we'll go over right here. Look at that. 6 missed. So he had only 6 missed targets. That's crazy. Just wanted to point that out, which is really good for the future. Oh, yeah. But to keep it on what we lost, that is, 240 out of 504. So, 2/3 of your target share is also gone. That's hard to make up. So when I say that is a big loss, losing Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, that is what I'm talking about. That's your 2 primary workhorses gone for Josh Allen. So they need to address that. We're going to go right into the next one, Leonard Floyd here, going to the Niners, who always seem to just get really good on the defensive line. And, wow, it's just another great signing by the 49ers, in my opinion. That is that's double-digit sack guy right there, gone off your defensive line. A team that had great amount of sacks. You gotta find a way to get those sacks back. We also lost another corner. We're gonna go down here. We got 3 defensive linemen we're losing and a linebacker. So remember how the run D wasn't doing that good? I know these guys are a little bit more on the depth side, but Terrell Dodson played a lot. He had a good amount of tackles. I didn't really go much over Sharfield. He didn't do much. It's not really a loss that matters for much. Unlikely account to the pick formula. The way he has this structured is who you're going to compensatory pick for. And yeah, I mean, like, obviously these are your big guys. These are the big losses outside of the trade. You're not going to get a pick for a trade. Otherwise, these are players who probably won't be for that pick, but also very big players, in my opinion. Poyer, I mean, that's a safety. That's one of the better safeties. He's older now. Has been one of the better safeties in the league for a long time. Your starting center there. Another starting, I wouldn't really say starting. More of a depth guy at corner. Running back who just could never get the field. That doesn't really hurt you. Also could never get the field at corner. That's a really good move, actually. That's saving $10 million on a guy who barely even played. Yeah. And then another wide receiver, same as Cherfield up there, just never really did much. So another good cap actually dropped there. So there's definitely a theme here, and they also, you can see down here, that haven't signed anywhere. They're still free agents. That means they're not on the team though. So you got Shaq Lawson, Micah Hyde being the big one, who I believe is still out there. I really hope they bring him back. He's stated it's either Bills or retirement at this point. I hope they bring him back. He's a great locker room guy, and probably would come for a pretty good price for how good he is if healthy. So that's one move I think this team should make. So just kind of looking at what they lost. Huge hit on wide receiver. Huge hit on defensive line. A little bit on linebacker. We also lost. This also doesn't cover. They traded away another offensive lineman. Or maybe it does cover it. I'm just not seeing it. But they traded away another offensive lineman. So they lost 2 offensive linemen. 2 starting offensive linemen. Right? So their offensive line takes a hit. Their secondary takes a big hit. Pass rush and wide receiver probably, in my opinion, takes the biggest hit. So they got a lot of work to do. And the theme of this offseason has been saving money. This is a thing that happens time to time with most teams. It's nothing crazy. But let's get right into kind of who they picked up. They needed to drop some money. They've had a lot of success, but the team's older and it's just too much of a salary hit. So going into who they signed, they picked up Mitch Trubisky, backup quarterback. He did well the first time there. That's a really good move. Now, Nicholas Morrow is a great signing, actually, for a 1-year deal. That covers your linebacker need. I actually like that signing a lot. Really good player for the Eagles. We're going to go into wide receiver. We got 2 wide receivers. Mike Hollins, I think, is a bit underrated as a deep threat. He's good. Curtis Samuel has been one of my favorite wide receivers in the league. Doesn't put up the numbers that make you wow, but I just think he's a good player. He is great at underneath route running, and you guys lost a lot in the underneath realm with Stephon Diggs. He's a chain mover, in my opinion. He's just great at running the ball for end arounds and stuff too. Now this is another big move here. Mike Edwards, covering that safety role. You got your D line, Hill here, offensive line, another defensive line, and then you re-signed. Luckily, a good amount of people. We kept Rapp. I like Rapp a lot. That really, your safeties aren't as in bad shape as it seemed before. So you also got some good restructures. Definitely was like you guys, the team really went for signing some people, but more or less saving some money. And that has to happen when you get an older team like this. So that's good. I like to see that. I think they had a pretty good free agency. I think Samuel and Edwards are the two big ones here. Morrow actually might be an underrated big one here. Let's head over to the draft now, guys. So Buffalo Bills NFL drafts. I don't know if this covers this, but here we go. After trading back twice in day one, so the Bills trade back twice to pick up more picks because they know they dumped out a lot of talent on this team. A lot of the higher talent that costs a lot of money. So they go ahead and they address the wide receiver need, which is a big need, I would say, still, even though they did pick up Curtis Samuel. They picked up Coleman, played a lot in the slot, but this isn't really a slot guy. And what I mean by that is his size is big. Right here, it says right here. 6'3", 215 pounds. That's a big boy. And he's fast. Good physical size. You know, we'll see how he does. I like the pick, but it with all rookies, it kind of comes down situationally about what coaches are there to teach them and help them grow in the situation they come in with the team. I think he is in a good spot. I think this wide receiver core has a lot to prove. I hope they add maybe some more in the coming years because it's kind of light still at this point. Now we're going back into safety because we did lose their two starting safeties. Cole Bishop out of Utah. This was an underrated defense. It was a great defense. It just was underrated in the draft, in my opinion. This is really good pickup. That's a great safety pickup. He can play in a lot of places too. He's going to get a lot of usage on this team, I think. Maybe he doesn't crack the starting lineup. You do have Edwards and Rapp who are good safeties, but he can move around. I think he's going to get a good amount of playing time year one, especially maybe with special teams. Right here is actually a big move. Defensive tackle out of Duke in the 3rd round. That's a big boy, and you're going to need some big boys because now your offense is not going to be humming. You don't have that high volume of passing. You need to stop the run. Now we have a problem with our defensive line not stopping the run, and it looks like here this guy actually really good at getting past the line. 5.5 sacks and 11 tackles for losses as a defensive tackle, and the ACC for Duke, so wasn't playing slouches either. No, that's a good pickup in the 3rd round. Now we're gonna get to the 4th round. We're gonna get to day 3 stuff. We picked up a running back, which is probably for the best. They didn't really lose much considering Hines was hurt, but they definitely need to get a number 2 guy, a strong number 2 guy, and I think Ray Davis could fill that role. Center, good, because you just lost your starting center, so they picked up a center. This is actually a guy who dropped. I mean, this guy started on Georgia's, national winning offensive line for a number of years. He was probably a lot higher a year ago. Georgia kind of didn't have the year they hoped for last year, but that's a good pickup in the 5th round, especially. You picked up a linebacker out of Washington. That's good. You need more help there after. I mean, you kind of already recovered your losses, but you need help in the future to help with that run. And then edge out of Troy. You need a little more help. I mean, this is late in the 5th round. These guys, hard to say if they're really going to contribute early, but you got to hope with these later round picks to develop into someone that can really take some spots. Offensive tackle, corner, offensive line out of England. That's a fun one. This guy's super athletic. I know that. 6'7", 300 pounds, and runs a 4.8. That's crazy. That's just crazy. And he's a rugby player, so that tells you. And boxer. I didn't know that. Rugby player and boxer. That guy he can take you out. That's it for the draft. That's actually a pretty good draft in my opinion. As I said, these later round picks, you just hope to develop into people. Let's go ahead and jump right back. I think for a review, when I really think about it, I mean, they lost so much. It's so hard to put this anywhere too high because even like outside of going crate, they're really trying to lower their cap hit in the future years because now Josh Allen is on that big contract. And now they can't afford to have as big things. They still have Von Miller. They have a lot of money used up on that team. So they had to get rid of a lot, but I think they did a good job of replacing what they got, and they're gonna take a step back. I'm not gonna sit here and say they're making the divisional round 4 years in a row now, which was kind of, it felt like it wasn't a good thing to make it to go out at that point last year. This year, if you do make it to the divisional round, Bills fans, you should celebrate because that means you're going to turn over into a much younger, better team going forward. I think they're going to take a step back, though. It's going to be a tough year. I'm going to give this a C+. I really want to give this a B, and honestly, I would love to see them bring Hyde back, and if they brought Hyde back, that would elevate it to a B, just that leadership role on his part. I can't quite get it into that just because it's a lot of unknowns, and they have the potential to do well. They have the potential to do very well with Josh Allen back there at quarterback, but I think there's going to be a little bit of a growing period this year, and I really think they're trying to set themselves up not for next year, but for the following year. Let me know what you guys think. I gave it a C+. Tell me what you've given it. Also, let me know what team you want me to do next. And subscribe. Thanks for watching. You guys are the best. All right? Loves, guys. See ya.